Imagine a child with autism in 2020, before ChatGPT was ever released. The child is misunderstood and unable to communicate and unable to express themselves to their friends, family, and the closest people to them. Now imagine that exact same child 5 years later in 2025, opening ChatGPT for the first time, entering a simple prompt, and suddenly ChatGPT converts his simple prompt to a full spoken sentence in any language or tone that they wish. It converts his prompt into illustrations, into diagrams, into images, or even a video that he can share with the entire world and also his friends and the people closer to him. In this scenario, not just did AI act as a great receiver who can clearly understand and communicate with the child, but also it played a huge important role to how that child now communicates with the entire world. When this thought first came in my mind, it seemed like a perfect world where AI can help bridge that gap between disabilities and the world and how these people interact with the world. But then as I started thinking about it a little bit, I started feeling like there can be a negative side to this, and it's actually a little bit deeper than you think, and I'm not too sure if it matters anymore or not that there is even a negative side. Before we get into how AI can be used by people with autism or people with disabilities in general, let's actually have a look at what are some of the most things that people actually struggle with that have autism. Now, from the articles that I read, there were 3 main things that kept being repeated. The number one is social and communication. So individuals struggling to have to understand social cues, understanding body language or interpreting body language, and engaging in conversation. Emotional regulation was the second one. So struggling to identify and understand and manage their emotions, which often leads them to struggle a lot with social situations, whether complex or not. And finally, sensory processing. This one is a little bit difficult, but it's individuals that experience sensory sensitivities such as being easily overwhelmed by loud noises, bright light, and even strong smells. Now, as of today, like as of right now, not in the future, as of today, AI can already help with all of these, maybe some better than the others, but all of them can definitely be assisted with AI. For example, when it comes to social and communication, AI can be great for enhancing the user's interpretation of conversations around them, enhance the responses, and even clarify areas where they might struggle or where they might be confused, such as sarcastic comments and jokes. And for the users that might be completely non-verbal, AAC tools such as or alternative communication tools devices can integrate AI and have a huge advantage of not just being able to allow the kid to or the person to express themselves to the world, but also understand it. Now, I want you to imagine an all-in-one device that it is completely perfect. It's integrated onto the user's mobile device. So someone who's autistic, maybe they can download an app on the device. That app will straight away have access to the ears of the autistic person through the iPhone's mic, the mouse by what they type in and what they speak, the eyes through the camera, and so on. But it doesn't even stop there. Every interaction that the autistic person will have on their phone or on their app or even with the community around them can be communicated with the app. It can be interpreted by the app, and AI is really good at recognizing patterns. So unlike a therapist that can be with an autistic person or a patient for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a week, you now have an app powered by AI that can monitor, study, recognize patterns with someone with autism for 24/7, every single day, all the time, even during their sleep. It can recognize when they get overwhelmed. It can recognize when they react negatively to a particular event or something that someone said. It can react and recognize when someone misunderstands something or misunderstands sarcasm, and it will straight away be able to provide feedback to the user, to the autistic person. And this is really great because it will allow the app to monitor everything. It will allow them to give direct feedback. It will allow them to even maybe give them prompts on, hey, you can reply using this or reply using that. It obviously might be slower at the beginning, but we're talking about now. This is what AI can do now. Now imagine what it can do 10 years in the future, for example. Now, so far, it seems like I'm really trying to sell AI on you and how it can be used very positively, really, with the patient directly. Anyway, it's already being used by clinicians to treat their patients, sometimes maybe summarizing notes and so on, but we're just focusing on the actual patient's perspective. And it sounds great. Now, my question is, if AI can fill the gaps between someone's ability and the demands of the world, do we even need to actually treat that condition to begin with? Think about it that way. If someone is born without legs, our first instinct is not really to try and put them into a medical trial or a medical project that will take years to eventually grow their biological legs again. We simply provide them with a wheelchair that bridge that gap and allows them to actually participate in the world without their legs, but using a different tool, an artificial tool that allows them to interact with the world. So why is it that with mental disabilities this is different? Or conditions like autism, or conditions like speech issues, any mental condition really, or any mental disability, why does that get treated differently? Why is our first approach to actually treat it and get rid of it rather than providing them with a tool? Now, maybe in the past, it would have been very difficult to provide a tool or create an advanced tool that would actually bridge that gap between the disability and the demand of the world. But right now, we actually have a really great chance, and we have the ability to create advanced tools that would bridge that gap. So if we can technically create an AI wheelchair for the mind, a tool that bridges that communication gaps, regulate emotions, assists in navigating social situations without the need to necessarily treat the condition, is that really wrong? I'm not too sure, and this is actually what I'm trying to discuss in that video, whether it's actually wrong or not, to maybe drop the efforts of treatment and maybe focus on creating tools or providing tools that would eliminate the need for that to begin with. I think to answer that question, we first need to actually understand the difference between treatment and support. While treatment usually means trying to bring someone closer to the norm or being able to interact with their environment and adjusting with their environment, support, on the other hand, usually means adapting to the environment itself or giving tools so that they can thrive as they are in that environment. AI might actually allow us to lean towards support much more than treatment by providing those tools that would allow the patient to really just get support rather than treat the condition completely. And it would really kind of erase the barriers that cause this entire issue to begin with. Now, here's where I think it actually continues to get a little bit just interesting. On one hand, this can be incredibly liberating. It can be very quick. People would not really need to go through endless and expensive therapy sessions or training to force themselves to fit into society. They could focus on just using their strengths and passion while letting AI really fill the gaps in the middle and do the heavy lifting for them. And on the other hand, which is a bit negative, relying on AI might actually create a dependency that limits the personal growth. If every social challenge is smoothed over by a machine, does the person actually end up losing the opportunity or even the need, and focus on the need to develop those skills themselves? Like, do they actually still need to develop those skills themselves anymore? I'll take this even to the next stage and say, would people who are not even suffering from any mental disorder still need to grow those skills, or can we just start relying on these tools, especially with young kids, even if they're not suffering with anything? Do we still need to put as much effort to learn social skills, to understand things around us, to comprehend things around us, or can we just depend on AI to really help fill that gap? Think of any old technology that we used to have to learn and we no longer have to learn it. For example, navigating. 30 years ago, or even less, but 30 years ago, you would have had to learn how to navigate yourself. Remember roads, remember routes, remember road names. Right now, I cannot even remember 2 roads next to me. It's a skill that I haven't spent a single minute trying to learn. And that is because I have a GPS on my phone all the time, or even on my watch. There's no need for me to learn that skill at all. I can just put in the GPS and start driving anyway. I think AI for autism can work exactly the same way, making life really much easier, but maybe at the cost of certain abilities that could have been built over time not being learned. And I think the question here that I'm really maybe trying to ask is whether it's actually worth spending that time, effort, and money to learn skills manually if AI can just replace the need for that skill entirely. To help answer that question, I think we need to reflect on what will actually happen if society entirely leans on AI. Now, let's assume we're in the future. Everything is AI, including things like autism and so on. What will happen if the AI isn't available? If it becomes subscription based and it becomes super expensive? Like, at what cost would you pay to maybe help your kid communicate with the world? What cost would be too much to help your kid get better grades, or get better assistance, or make better friends, or be even funner, or better, or more interesting to talk to? What if servers go down? What if companies start getting a bit greedy and trying to make, for example, the users start picking up on keywords that are more leaning towards the products? This can impact politics, it can impact safety, it can impact morals and ethics. And I think if we are entirely heavily dependent on social skills being grown, or dependent on AI, then things like that are really at risk. Now, I think an example to make this easier to understand is, and I mentioned the wheelchair at the beginning, so let's bring that up again. I think depending heavily on AI for things like autism and social skills would be like being able to use the wheelchair only if the salesman that sold you that wheelchair is the one pushing it, meaning they get to control where you get to go, where you get to stop, what you get to see, what's dangerous for you, and so on, which I think is very dangerous. To conclude this video, I don't think I actually know the answer to the previous questions. However, I would like to believe that in an already perfect world and in an already ethical world, there will be no danger from relying on AI at all. In fact, it might be really good. But unfortunately, that is not actually the case. And how humans and companies choose to use those AIs might actually make us really consider whether AI should supplement human development or substitute it entirely, or even be involved in the picture at all. Thanks so much for watching the video. This is my first time reading while I'm talking, so I'm not sure if it actually looks good or not. But please drop down a comment, let me know what you think about this discussion, and let me know if I completely misunderstood something here. Thank you, and I hope to see you in the next episode.